Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see such a full room. For those of you that are still getting your breakfast, we want you to be fed, so get your breakfast, find a seat. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here to Burlington and to welcome those of you that are joining us online this week. I am Susan Shingledecker. I am Executive Director of ESIP, Earth Science Information Partners. I hope that you've had a chance to complete our opening poll, and if you have not, please scan the QR code or go to slido.com #ESIP. We will be using Slido throughout the week, so you're going to want to get familiar with it. That's where we'll do question and answer, polls, other brainstorming activities. So if you could open that up and do our opening poll for us, we would really appreciate it. It's going to help us get a quick pulse on who's with us here, both in the room and online. So it will help us bridge that in-person and that online community. I am so excited that you have chosen to spend the week with us. As I told our board yesterday, at each of our in-person meetings, we aim to inspire and connect the ESIP community to the local community where we are gathered. There is something about spending 3 years with pretty much no ability to travel that really makes me appreciate the differences that can be more fully understood when we visit new places. It allows us to get a firsthand understanding, not only of the natural beauty of the place, but the local topography, geology, culture, and also understand and meet the local people that influence the place and help us understand the unique challenges we face. Saturday, as I was flying to Burlington, I loved looking out the plane window and tracing the coastline of the Chesapeake Bay, crossing over, seeing Cape May, looking at the Jersey Shore, and then finally seeing Lake Champlain and knowing we were close. I thought it was really interesting to see the muddied floodwaters of the Winooski River emptying into Lake Champlain. To me, travel helps me reflect on a sense of place and grounds me in the community that we are. It is important to me that we recognize the Indigenous communities where we are gathered. These are people who have been with us and been in these places long before our arrival and are still with us here today. In this region of Vermont, the Western Abenaki people lived on these lands back as far as 13,000 years ago. And specifically, the Missisquoi lived along the shores of Lake Champlain. Their population of around 10,000 shrunk to fewer than 1,000 after the American Revolution. Most of the Western Abenaki fled to Quebec to escape colonial influence. I ask that in this week, you seek to learn about the local landscapes, people, and culture, and use that to inspire our work together. In addition to centering our work this week, recognizing the Indigenous communities of the region, I would like to pause and reflect on the historic flooding that has devastated the state of Vermont in the past week. It is no longer accurate to say phrases like unprecedented flooding, or once in a lifetime, or even use terms like 100-year flood. It's happening more frequently, and in this room, we know that climate change is real. And it is impacting communities around the world on a daily basis. It impacted people's ability just to come to this meeting. So whether it is forest fires in your community or the impacts of wildfire smoke like we see today, intense tropical systems, decreased snowpack and drought or severe flooding events, the evidence is undeniable. I ask that in our work, we use these disasters to fuel our intensity. As we know, putting data into the hands of those who need it can save lives and better equip our world to address these challenges. So as we work together this week and throughout the year, I want to bring ESIP's community participation guidelines to the forefront. While many of you have seen these before, we have over 100 first-time attendees. I hope you all put the first-time attendee sticker on your badge because we want to meet you. We use these guidelines to guide our understanding of expected and unacceptable behaviors. Should you experience a behavior that makes you feel uncomfortable or is counter to these guidelines, we want to know about it and we want to address it. There is an online form at the website where the guidelines are that you can get at the QR code. You can report online if you would like, or I ask you to find a staff member or a board member. We are identified with a colored stripe at the bottom of our badges. And we want to make sure that we address those concerns immediately. ESIP's culture of collaboration sets us apart from so many other groups, and how we engage with each other in collaboration is an essential part of ESIP's culture. There's another group of people here this week that have a different color stripe at the bottom of their name badge, and that is our ESIP Community Fellows. Our Community Fellows are current graduate students who do a 1 to 2 year fellowship with ESIP and learn about community management. This week, you will see them in the breakout sessions. They will usually be in the front of the room helping us to manage a very labor-intensive hybrid meeting. They will be running Zooms and helping to facilitate things. It's important to me that you know that they're not our tech support. These are amazing graduate students who are our future leaders in this field. So I encourage you to meet them, to ask them about your research, to ask them about their career objectives. And I can tell you, maybe some of you will be fortunate enough to be future employers for some of our incredible community fellows. So did you know that 2023 marks ESIP's 25th year? Woohoo! We think that is worth celebrating, and we will mark and celebrate this milestone throughout the week. There may even be some cake. It's now my pleasure to introduce ESIP's board president, Ken Casey, to share more about our journey and where we are headed.
Thank you, Susan, and hello, everyone. So making it to 25 years is definitely not a small feat. It's really a remarkable accomplishment for any organization, and it's definitely by no means a given. Organizations come and they go, but the most successful ones, the ones that persist and continue contributing positively to the world, take the time to periodically reorient themselves to the changing times. And so the ones that don't, well, they just fade away. So the ones that do can survive and they can thrive in the changing context. And I'm really happy to report that ESIP is one of those that is thriving, precisely because it's taken the time to take a look around and revector and reorient itself and adjust its trajectory a little bit here and there. And really make sure that its efforts are focused and contributing in the right places. So thanks to the efforts of a lot of people around our community, around our organization, we now have a new mission and vision statement, and an updated set of core values that really help drive our behaviors as we move forward. And so let me start with our new vision. So our new vision is a world where data-driven solutions are a reality for all by making earth science data actionable by all who need them anytime, anywhere. This vision sets our aspiration and defines the world we want to live in. It might take us 100 years to get there, but we will focus our efforts to move in that direction. We will work to achieve that aspiration by focusing on this mission, to empower innovative use and stewardship of earth science data to solve our planet's greatest challenges. These challenges, as you all know, are many and varied and extremely urgent, and we hold it as a self-evident truth that the innovative application and effective stewardship of our environmental data will be critical to successfully solving them. But just as important as this long-term vision and where we're going and our mission focus that gets us there is really the how. How are we going to go about building a world where data-driven solutions are a reality for all? Well, we do that by following our core values, and they're listed here: integrity, inclusiveness, collaboration, openness, and curiosity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through each of these. I'm going to read the word, and then I'm going to pause as you can all take on the sentence that's under that word, and then I'll add a few more thoughts. So first, integrity. We believe in people, science, and the use of data for good in the world. We trust our community to act honestly and ethically, both individually and in collaboration. reaching for high aspirations while being truthful about our limitations. Our next core value is inclusiveness. We seek many voices and perspectives, and our work is better for it. We welcome and include all participants and organizations with an interest in expanding the use, stewardship, and management of earth science data. Our community participation guidelines that Susan referenced already outline our expectations and unacceptable behaviors in our community. Collaboration. We leverage each other's collective experience and expertise by spanning sectors, career stages, domains, and geographical boundaries. We enable work with greater impact than the efforts of individual organizations alone. Our collaborative spirit infuses our community with a sense of optimism and purpose. Openness. We see the transformative benefits of open communities and open science. Transparency permeates our community events, our processes, governance, and outputs. In our community, participants share ideas, including both successes and challenges, with a willingness to listen and engage with an approachable and constructive mindset. And finally, curiosity. We are driven by a desire to learn. Powered by possibility, we seek to advance the earth sciences, the state of the art, and our understanding of our planet. We meet challenges head on. A willingness to learn prompts questions that encourage us to expand our collective knowledge. So with that new vision and mission in mind, and while holding our core values close to your heart, I charge you all this week to lean into the power of community. And I tell you, I'm getting the shivers sort of up here, just looking around at the room today. It's just fantastic. So get yourself into the arena, go outside your comfort zone, ask those questions that you're not comfortable asking, reach out to the folks that you know, and also reach out to the folks you don't know. Right around in this room, we've got 300 friends and friends to be, and right now here in this room, and there is not 1 minute to waste. The world really needs you, both the individual you and the collective you, the group you, and it needs you right now. With that charge, let me hand the microphone back to Susan, and I hope you all have a fantastic week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you to the many board members and community members that helped us over the past year and a half work on that new vision, mission, and core values. On Friday at our assembly business meeting, I'll go through a little bit more about the why and how we did that for those of you that are interested in that. So to get ready for this week, go on to Sketch. Sketch is your in-person meeting app, right? And we're still figuring out how to get back to in-person meetings, and having that app on your phone, you can build a custom schedule. You can select the sessions that you want. You can read speaker bios, and it will also give you an email once a day, just kind of profiling the events that are coming up ahead of you. So that will help you get the most out of your week here. So this is going to be a really full week. We have 11 more sessions than we had a year ago in Pittsburgh in the same amount of time. None of this would be possible without the financial support of ESIP's 3 agency sponsors, NASA, NOAA, and USGS, as well as our meeting sponsors listed here, AWS, who is our silver level sponsor, Esri and SSAI, our coffee break sponsors, AGU, our research showcase sponsor, and Element 84, our reusable lanyard sponsor. Meetings are expensive, and we do all we can to make our meetings as affordable as possible. And it really simply wouldn't be possible without this kind of support. So now I want to look at your responses to our Slido poll, where you're from, how many meetings you've been to, and your role in open science. Can we shift to that? Okay, so I know there's more than 88 people in this room. So get out your phone, go to slido.com, #ESIP. I want to see more participation than just 88, because we're going to be using this throughout the week. If you want to ask a question, you're going to need to go into Slido. So let's go in there and we want to hear from you. So yeah, it looks like we have a great group: DC, Maryland, Colorado, Seattle, Washington, DC, Virginia. But also we've got a lot of great representation from other places. I do know we have about 10 international participants. We're always looking to grow that as well. Can you move to the next question? How many ESIP meetings have you been to? Okay, so high five to the first time attendees who are not afraid to go into Slido and participate and tell us who you are. Because I know there's 300 people in the room and we only have 100 first-time attendees. So that's an interesting data point about like how a first-time attendee engages. I love it. So a lot of people haven't been to as many meetings as I would think. I know there are a lot of people in ESIP who have been around for a long time. I know there are people in this room who have been to 17 or more meetings. But it's a great mix. We've got first-time attendees. We've got a few of you who are, kind of in my range, been around for a few years, 5 to 7 and 8 to 10. Great. And then the last question, please. What? Say that again. I didn't. Open Doors 23 is the Wi-Fi password if that is holding you back. Sorry about that, folks. Things we got to take care of on day one so that we can have a good meeting. And then this is going to inform some things we're moving to later. So our theme for this year is opening doors to open science. And I posted, I hope on your phone it's a little bit bigger, the open science wheel that kind of identifies all the different areas of working in open science. And I wanted to get a sense for where are we? Right? Like what are the things that the ESIP community is uniquely positioned to do? And we're going to come back to this a little bit later. But we have a lot of folks in here working on open data and software. Shocking. Imagine that. You're in the right place. That's good. Reproducible tools, frameworks, libraries is also quite high. Open access to publications, open collaborative analysis tools. Excellent. So we're going to come back to this. So if you have not completed it, please go ahead and do so. Can we switch back to the slides, please? So in January, we kicked off our annual theme of opening doors to open science. And for those of you that were there, we talked about how as a community, we can open doors for others. We talked about our experience going through doors, right? We talked about what it feels like to open a door for yourself, what it feels like when the person in front of you kind of tips the door open for you, and then what it feels like when someone actually opens the door and looks you in the eye and says, welcome, come on in, I'm so glad you're here. And we charged you to be that kind of a leader that opens doors for others. So this week, I'm going to challenge you to think about a different kind of door. We've all seen them. I've seen them here this week, just yesterday, actually. I want you to think about the doors that are a little stuck. Or worse yet, maybe they're locked. In our board meeting yesterday, it got really hot and there were sliding doors and we were all trying to figure out how to open them. And do they open? Are they just locked? Are they stuck? Am I going to break it? We finally got those doors open, actually, thanks to Amber. So there are tricky doors that we need to open when it comes to open science. This community has been some of the early adopters of open science. I don't need to get up here and expand on open science and try and get you on board. That would be preaching to the choir. But the opportunity we have with this community is that you are willing to tackle challenges and open tough doors. You embrace that challenge. So what are the doors that you see as really stuck that we must open to fully realize the true potential of open science? Our opening plenary today is a little different. First, we're going to hear from an open science champion, Dr. Carrie Jordan, Executive Director of the Carpentries. And then we are going to do some ideation and brainstorming to identify those hard to open doors as a group, all 350 of us in person and online. It could get a little messy, but I am not afraid of messy. This community is good at messy. We are good at taking on challenges, combining our expertise, and making a real impact. So I am excited to see what doors we can identify, and I'm especially interested in those doors that ESIP is well positioned to help open. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Carrie Jordan. Carrie plays a pivotal role in promoting data literacy, open science, and computational skills training worldwide in her role as Executive Director of the Carpentries, another fantastic organization who is celebrating their 25th anniversary this year. So welcome, Carrie.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all. Greetings, ESIP community, funders, board members. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm Carrie Jordan. Thank you, Susan. Thank you to the AV team. There's just a lot that it takes a lot to put together a meeting like this. So I really appreciate all that you're doing to build open science in your community. Do you see my slides? Okay, great, because I don't see them. Just making sure. It's ESIP's 25th year, and since birthdays are my favorite holiday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear ESIP. Happy birthday to you. Yes, you did it. So as Susan mentioned, the Carpentries is also celebrating 25 years, and we're thrilled to share this space with such an impactful community. I want to invite you all to our birthday celebration. There should be a QR code up on the screen. Is there? Okay. Am I still on the welcome slide? Oh, okay. I don't see anything here, so maybe that'll help. Do you see a QR code now? And a birthday cake? All right, let's get the AV together. Hello. I want to invite you to our birthday party. So scan the QR code, or you can follow that link to register, and we would love to continue celebrating both ESIP and the Carpentries' 25th anniversary together. So I'll hold just to make sure everyone gets that link. Perfect. Not yet. Not yet. 3, 2, 1. All right. So my talks are always very interactive. Don't be surprised if you have to turn to your neighbor and ask them a question or talk to them about something. So for 1 minute, I want you to think about the core values that inform your decision-making. After that, you're going to turn to your neighbor, share what those core values are, and see if there are any synergies. So I have my timer here, 1 minute. Think about the core values that drive your decision-making. It can be in any context, at work, at home, with your family. What are the core values, 2 to 3 of them, that drive how you make decisions? Write them down or jot them in your phone and be ready to share with the person next to you. You have 1 minute. Perfect. Now, I want you to connect with someone at your table. And if you are not sitting close to someone, that means you have to get up, and it's okay. Share the core values that you wrote down. What synergies do you find? What similarities do you find in the values that drive your decision-making? So we'll do this for another minute. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ooh. That was the alarm. Hopefully, by doing that exercise together, you discovered you have a lot in common with the individuals at your table. And I want you to continue to think about those values, because at the end of this session, or at the end of my talk, there's going to be some co-working, right? Okay, some brainstorming. And so keep those values in mind, and the ones that hopefully you've learned from a neighbor as you're going through that brainstorming exercise later. What I want to do next is talk about the Carpentry's mission and vision as it relates to ESIPs and the similarities there. Now, I want to preface this by saying I didn't get the memo that you change your vision statement. And so it's a little bit outdated, but I think we're going to get there. We'll get there. You're fine. I should have ran my slides by the board chair before I got here. But what I think you'll still uncover is that we have so many similarities between our mission, our vision, and our values. And the lessons that we've learned at the Carpentries to build equity in open science can be learned across ESIP, and you can take these things back to your community. So we'll still get there. So before today, ESIP's vision was to be a leader in promoting the collection, stewardship, and use of earth science information and knowledge responsive to societal needs. The Carpentry's vision is to be the leading inclusive community teaching data and coding skills. Our values are so closely aligned, and some of them are still the same. There were a couple of additions. ESIP leads with values of openness, inclusiveness, innovation, participation. At the Carpentries, we act openly. We believe in transparency, honesty, and fairness. Those are the keys to fostering trust within an open community. We're always learning. We value a growth mindset in all that we do and strive for continuous improvement, evolving ourselves and our methodologies, being responsive, curious, eager, and receptive to feedback. We value all contributions from individuals, regardless of their identity or expression, as long as those contributions adhere to our code of conduct, of course. And we advocate for inclusivity, welcoming and extending empathy and kindness in order to leverage contributions from all of our community members, regardless of their identity and expression. Now, since we have similar vision and values, I thought it would be impactful to share what we've learned at the Carpentries and how we can break barriers and build bridges to advance equity and inclusion in open science. We are in a data revolution. As stewards of ESIP's vision and values, you support members' networking and data dissemination needs and the global earth science data community by linking the functional sectors of observation, research, application, education, and the use of earth science. Now, last week, I attended the Accelerating the Adoption of Open Science meeting that was hosted by CERN and NASA. And there we collaboratively developed open science policies and action plans to establish open science as the norm for research practice. The closing statement from this summit was so compelling that I'm going to read it to you. As key members of the research ecosystem, we aspire to advance discovery, promote responsible and ethical practices, foster a vibrant future within and across disciplines, train, support, and nurture current and future generations of researchers, and expand diversity, equity, inclusivity, and accessibility. To those ends, and acknowledging that there are differences across disciplines, geographies, and communities, We affirm our support for the sharing of research, science, and scholarship as a key enabler of these core values. We commit to accelerating the transition to a more open, equitable, secure, and sustainable ecosystem. Now, as stewards and practitioners, we can only steward science in response to societal needs if we acknowledge barriers, tear them down, and collaboratively build bridges to advance equity and inclusion. We can't address barriers if we don't call them out and name them specifically. So let's talk plainly about the impediments that people of color, women, and underrepresented groups face in science that prevent their full participation and representation. Now, these barriers can be structural, cultural, and even individual. The first being access to education and training. Socioeconomic disparities can limit access to quality education and training, which is necessary for entering data science careers. Schools in underprivileged communities may need more resources, experienced teachers, and access to advanced coursework in STEM fields. Unconscious bias, both explicit and implicit, can affect hiring practices, promotion opportunities, and career advancement. Unconscious bias may result in excluding people of color from projects or leadership positions, hindering their professional growth. Inclusive workplace culture. Data science workplaces that lack inclusivity and cultural sensitivity can make people of color feel unwelcome and marginalized. A lack of diversity in leadership and decision-making roles can perpetuate this problem. Mentorship and networking. Limited access to mentors and professional networks can hinder career growth. Building connections within the field is essential for accessing opportunities, job openings, and research collaborations. Stereotyping and microaggressions. I experienced this so much in my doctoral program. People of color may face stereotypes about their technical abilities or microaggressions, leading to lower self-confidence and job satisfaction. Lack of role models. The absence of visible role models who look like them can make it challenging for people of color and other underrepresented minorities to see themselves, to envision themselves securing roles in that particular field. And that'll affect their motivation and their aspirations. Cultural and linguistic barriers. Cultural differences and language barriers may create challenges in communication and collaboration, particularly in multinational and diverse teams. And lastly, implicit requirements. Some job descriptions may have implicit requirements that favor candidates from specific backgrounds, leading to unintentional exclusion of people of color. It's not all doom and gloom, I promise. I have solutions in the next couple of slides. So addressing these barriers requires a concerted effort from individuals, organizations, and policymakers. Strategies to promote diversity and inclusion in data science include implementing proactive diversity and inclusion plans. Proactive, not reactive, right? Build role models and other mentoring into the structure. Be proactive about recruitment and retention of people of color and other underrepresented minorities. Offers scholarships, mentorships, programming that directly supports underrepresented groups. This will encourage data science education and engagement in underserved communities. And finally, offer unconscious bias training in order to mitigate the impact of bias on decision-making. This helps to create safe spaces, and diversity inclusion will spread across your organization. ESIP can only solve some of these problems. So whenever I give talks about diversity and inclusion, it feels a little doom and gloom because I can't do all of this at one time. I can't change my entire, organization or my university or my lab. I can't do it all alone. Well, you don't have to do it all alone, and you cannot do everything at once. Where is your zone of genius? What can this group of professionals do? Your mission involves working together to meet environmental data challenges and looking for opportunities to expand, improve, and innovate across earth science disciplines. I think you are well positioned to take on any of these challenges, and I've provided some recommendations as I promised. Continuously look for ways to make it easier for newcomers to join this community. What did we just see Susan do at the beginning? We had a poll where we learned who was attending this meeting for the first time. There's a newcomer reception. I will be attending that. Make it easier for newcomers to join the community. Focus on being responsive to the needs identified by the community, particularly long-running problems that are frustrating or blockers for involvement. How many times do we create programs before we ask whether they're needed? Okay. I'm just saying. Always consider whether our decisions reflect any inflexibility and strive to be more flexible in order to be more inclusive. Commit to creating support structures and transparent communication. I love that our board chair, notice I said our board chair shared that the mission and the vision and the values have been elevated now that we're celebrating 25 years. That's transparency, and I love that. I can already tell that this community is great at welcoming new people, but how can we support them through growth and engagement? Remember that diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. I'm not standing on the wall. I want to get involved. I want to dance. Clarify pathways for community members to be involved. Don't make it hard to get involved. Continually acknowledge and incentivize the work of your community. And lastly, when you know better, just do better. That's what my grandmother always said. When you know better, do better. Pivot when you learn. Now, today is Mandela Day. It's so fitting that I'm giving this talk on Nelson Mandela Day. It's the 10-year celebration of remembering Nelson Mandela. So I'm going to issue a bold call to action in honor of Nelson Mandela. We must name the challenges if we hope to advance and overcome them. I've shared several barriers and potential solutions, but we cannot achieve equity and inclusion overnight. I challenge you to choose one approach that's in line with the values that you outlined earlier in my talk. Take action and consider those who are not in this room as you take action. Now is the time to pivot. If you've been afraid to do it before, let this be your call to action. The power to change is in each and every one of your hands. Thank you so much for listening. I will be here all week. I don't think we have time for questions. Do we? Okay, so we have time for questions after you clap. Okay.
So we will be using Slido for Q&A. We have found that Slido is a great way for leveling the playing field, connecting those online and in the room. And it also is a really democratic way to ask questions, because if someone across the room asks a really great question and you read it, you can vote it up. And then we can make sure we ask the questions that are most wanted by the audience. So, so your first question, and I like that, please tell us a little bit about the Carpentries' work.
Yes. So the Carpentries develops data science curriculum using open source tools. We started in 1998 as Software Carpentry, a smaller project that was focused on building educational materials for people who wanted to work with R, Python. And over 25 years, we've grown the organization. We've run workshops in 65 countries. We've trained over 4,000 volunteer instructors to lead our workshops. And we're an inclusive community teaching data and coding skills. If you are a Carpentries instructor or you've attended a workshop, can you raise your hand? I'm just curious. Well. I love it. Thank you.
So the next question is, what are some of the most impactful solutions you have seen so far?
Let me start by saying every solution that we've seen as impactful has come from us doing a lot of crowdsourcing. So when I said earlier, are you implementing programs that no one asked for? I meant what I said. We spend a lot of time garnering trust from our community and building mechanisms for feedback and asynchronous communication. And so the solutions that we've implemented in terms of accessibility of our resources and inclusion, creating inclusive learning environments, have come directly from their recommendations. The most impactful solutions that we've seen are those that are in partnership with organizations who have greater access to the communities that we want to serve. So we are only a staff of 16 remote employees, but we serve a global community. It's impossible for us to do all the things. And so we partner very closely with like-minded organizations who have similar values and vision and who may have access to the populations that we want to serve. So one example of that is we work very closely with the South African digital language group out of South Africa, obviously. Partnering with them, we have access to their researchers and we provide training and support for them. And so again, we build capacity in that way by partnering with the organizations that are directly serving the communities that we want to reach.
Great, thank you. So another question that got a ton of votes is, and you can't see it, but it's not a question, which Slido also helps us get those not a questions, but this is a good one. It says, thank you for your energy and the light you brought to the opening session today.
It's my
I want
pleasure.
you to see that.
Thank you.
Everyone else can see it. What did you mean about implicit job requirements as a barrier for inclusion and equity and diversity in this field?
Yes. So one of the things that we've done at the Carpentries, we partnered with an organization, a nonprofit called Understood, and they did an overhaul of our hiring practices and our workflow for posting job roles, where we post them, what kind of language we use in our job postings. And one of the things that they notice is the phrasing of our position requirements turned off people of color or people who have whether visible or invisible disabilities, and without us even knowing it, just because of the way the position requirements were written. And so that statement was just to say, sometimes it's good to have a collaborator or someone who works directly in an industry, whether it's accessibility or inclusion, to remove some of those things that maybe you have an expert awareness gap in order to achieve, equity.
Excellent. I would add to that, at the closing plenary, the ESIP Assembly will be endorsing a document called the Santa Barbara Charter, which lists a number of ways that as a community, we can increase diversity in the community. And things like that are in there in terms of our hiring practices. Mm-hmm. This is almost sacrilegious to say in this room, but when you're hiring, a lot of job descriptions start with, you must have a PhD, you must have a master's degree, right? And maybe we need to ask ourselves, in certain cases, might real world experience give you the person you're looking for, potentially for someone who's had a barrier to accessing higher education.
Absolutely.
I'm going to end with
Yes.
one last question that I think is a really wonderful one. How can we exhibit the importance of diversity in science to those who don't see its value? That's a hard one.
I love that question. And this is something that I spoke about last week at the NASA and CERN meeting. You have to provide for people who don't adopt. Susan talked about preaching to the choir. Everyone in here probably agrees with everything that I said, but we know that there is a community of individuals who don't. I heard someone say specifically, verbatim, why don't you just assimilate and do what we do? And I just wanted to cry. I was very angry by that statement. You have to provide examples. We're researchers, right? You have to provide data that shows when we increase the pool of instructors of color, or when we increase, the number of women who are doing XYZ, these are the fruits of that labor. And so without showing very specific examples, case studies, that's the way that you're going to reach people who just don't get it, in my opinion. Yeah.
Excellent. Please give Carrie a big round of hands.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Excellent, Carrie. Thank you so much. So now we're going to move into the audience participation section. And don't worry, those of you online, you can participate along through Slido as well, and in the chat with your colleagues that are on Zoom. So with the Slido poll, we ask you to identify where you see yourself in that open science ring. So we're going to do a little bit of kind of like Carrie started with, some silent reflection and thinking time. And then we're going to move into kind of sharing with your table mates. And then we're going to move some of those ideas into Slido so that the whole room can see it and respond to the thoughts that we have. So take a moment to think about all the ways that you are personally working to make science more open. As we know from Carrie's talk, open science, we need to have all the voices at the table, right? But there are many elements of open science. And how are you in your work making science more open? Think about, given all the incredible people that are in this room here today, imagine for just a moment the door that we could open if we were to focus our efforts on a common shared challenge. What is one elusive door we could open if we combined ESIP's desire and expertise? And I know we won't land on one. That's not possible in a room of 350. That's not what I'm going for. But for you, think of one, right? Imagine that if together we are 10 times bolder. Imagine that we have all the keys to those locked doors. What is a challenge you see in front of us to truly making science open? So I'd like you to reflect for 1 minute alone, and then we'll move into sharing with your table mates. These should be those hard things, those kind, almost like the unspeakable things, right? The things that they're really a barrier. It's not the easy stuff. About another 10 seconds. Okay. So earlier, Carrie had you share with a partner. I'm going to challenge you to, if you're at a full table, find a different partner, right? We want to meet lots of people here. There is a networking game through your badge with stickers, and there are really good prizes for that. So you can do that too. So find a partner, and we're going to spend about 5 minutes sharing your ideas with your partner, and maybe you can reinforce each other's ideas and make them even better. So we'll give you 5 minutes to share. All right, welcome back to those of you online that were whisked away to breakout rooms. I can tell you the energy here in the room for people discussing challenges and barriers, like you're like the happiest, most energized group of people talking about difficult things. I love it. It's fantastic. So I hope that sharing your idea or sharing your struggle or your idea of an opportunity with a partner helps strengthen the idea, right? That's the idea, that we build on each other, we make each other better. So now, to bridge the people online and the people in the room, and I kind of like the anonymous nature of it too. You don't have to be quite as scared to share your ideas. I want you to go back into Slido. We've opened a new function in Slido for all you session conveners. There's a thing called ideas that we're piloting. Take the ideas that you discussed and refined with your partner and try and distill it into a short statement, right? Especially even better if it's really something that this community, based on the strengths, based on where we are in open science and what the skills are in this room, things that ESIP could action. Although if that's not possible, still share your ideas. We want to hear it. Because maybe it's who do we need to engage to address those challenges. So I'm going to give you about 4 minutes because I know it takes a little while to refine it and write it perfectly, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Write those ideas of those doors we need to open to fully realize the full potential of open science. What are those? Let's name them. Let's see them and put them into Slido. And then we'll give you some time to read through them. You can upvote ideas if you're like, yes, oh, that one. And there's actually also an ability to comment. So for now, we'll just focus on the writing. Then we'll give you some time to read. We'll read through the various contributions, both online and in the room. So 4 minutes to capture your ideas and write them into Slido. I'll challenge you to be specific. Try and be specific. I'm looking at somebody like, what is it about interoperability that needs work, right? What is it that needs changing? So I can see we have a lot of really great ideas. I'm kind of curious over there. I don't know how many are in there, but I'm kind of excited. So now I'm going to give you a couple of minutes because there's a lot in here, and on the screen, we can't actually look at them all at one time. So I want you to, hopefully you've had the time to put your contributions into Slido. And I want to give you a couple minutes to read through what your peers and colleagues in the room and online have shared. And read through and reflect. I wish there were a way, if I could give Slido some feedback, I'd love to be able to bundle these, right? Drag the ones that are similar. Unfortunately, we can't do that. Read through them and respond. If you want to vote them up, that's going to help us prioritize kind of the will of the group and democratize and focus our efforts on what most of you care most about. How great is that? So for now, just focus on upvoting so we can see the ideas that most resonate with the largest number of people in the room. I will say there will be great ideas that maybe don't get a lot of votes. That doesn't mean that's not a great idea. I'm really excited to have this whole list. This is really amazing content. So read through, see what others in the room are saying, and vote up the ideas that resonate with you. Okay, I can tell by the sound in the room that maybe you're done reading, because now we're chatting again, and that's great. So looking at this, there's some really great things. It's a really long list of ideas. You may not have even gotten all the way to the bottom. So rest assured, while Slido does advance, the next day we kind of clear things out. we are keeping this treasure trove of great ideas. We will likely put it into a Google Doc so that you all can access it later on. So fear not. If you had trouble getting into Slido, if you couldn't find your idea, you'll be able to access that Google Doc and see things. So there's some really great things in here. Incentivize doing things more openly, right? So what could we do as a group to focus on incentivizing open science? Because it is a lot of work, right? It's a lot harder to do things differently than how they've always been done. So who do we need in the room to work on incentives? Changing academic culture to encourage collaboration over competition, right? I actually think ESIP may have something to say there. This is a room of people who love to collaborate, right? Changing academic culture is really hard. But who would need to be in the room to make that happen? And how can we be a beacon of collaboration over competition? What would be needed? How would that be piloted? What would that look like? Where could we start? Or who has already started that we could talk to and say, how can we expand on that? Publishing fees abolished. So one thing that I have always been fascinated with is the business model of open science, right? Because all the people in the open science ecosystem, we need to feed our families. We need to make money. There are real costs. I would love for ESIP meetings to be free, but then we just wouldn't have them. And you wouldn't have coffee breaks and you wouldn't have breakfast. But what are the business models of open science, including publishing fees? Let's scroll up a little bit. Change incentive structures to drive engagement with open science. So that's, again, that goes, like, I wish we could bundle them a little. Incentive structures, absolutely. Access to the primary data that was collected, not just the data products. That sounds like something this group could work on. Interoperable data, so the knowledge of dealing with one data set makes it easy to work with all days. Data sets would be my guess. Yeah. Express complex ideas in simple language. Promotion processes should include accessibility to data and software products, not just papers. Full provenance tracing for decisions, studies, etc. Data that more people can understand. Okay, so there's a lot of great things in here. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. As you scrolled through that list and you upvoted some ideas, you probably thought, oh, I know somebody who can do that. Or somebody's already working on that. Or almost, kind of, I look at the problem a little bit differently. I want to challenge each person in the room, even the people standing in the back. And I love that we're standing room only at the moment. There are seats up front, but I think you're a back of the room kind of crowd. I would like you to go and leave 3 comments. 3 comments on ideas that you can either build upon, challenge, improve, make better. Leave comments so that we can build on these ideas and make them even stronger than they are. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes for that. So for those people, some people were saying up front, like, oh, I'm going to just tell you my comment. And I love that. But the beauty of Slido is that we can have a conversation with all 350 people, those people here and the people that are online. So that's why I'm forcing you to the app, folks. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So I never thought I could love how in one session, the buzz and the energy I heard in the room, and then the very deliberate, thoughtful silence that we just had. Like, I love that you guys are digging in like that. I hope through the voting up in Slido, you can see that your challenges and your ideas are not yours alone. That's the beauty of ESIP. We come together to work together across domains, across disciplines, across sectors, because we know that the solutions we can create together through that diversity of participation will result in more sustainable solutions. So of the ideas that are up here, and this is a very challenging question, is there one that you want to help move forward? The way we design our agenda here this week, Most of the content is community contributed, and we're going to move on to some awesome breakout sessions later today after this. But on Thursday, we have a great opportunity, and we have another opportunity on Friday, because you know what happens? Like, we all leave our offices and we come to a conference like this and we meet people and we have conversations and we get excited about something that we weren't thinking about during the session submission deadline, right? And you're like, oh, if only we had time to talk about this. So on Thursday, we have something called our unconference. And starting now through Thursday at lunch, you can suggest unconference sessions. So if there is an idea that came up here, or if there is a challenge that is so great and so urgent, we need to act on it now, I want you to propose that as an unconference session. And then you will have a whole hour to bring together the people that are equally as excited about that challenge as you are, and we can move that ball forward, right? So that is one opportunity to take the work that we've done here. Maybe it's on incentivizing open science. Maybe it's on academic culture. Maybe it's on interoperability. What is that thing that we need to be talking about that maybe isn't on the schedule already? Propose it for the unconference. You can make those suggestions up by the registration desk. At lunch on Thursday, there will be short pitches on the ideas. We will vote for the top 10 ideas that people want to work on in that time, and then we'll get to it. We'll roll up our sleeves. The other opportunity to advance some of these ideas, if you have a concrete solution that you want to implement now, we have an excellent fun competition on Friday morning called Funding Friday. That is where groups of people come together. You make a poster about your idea, not in PowerPoint, not in Canva. We got markers and flip charts. We're going to go over to the Burlington Beer Company if that's what gives you extra inspiration, or you can do it, here. Make that poster telling the story of your idea that you're going to advance. And then ESIP has funding, small seed funding, not millions of dollars, that can advance these ideas. And maybe it's just that little bit of an incentive that brings the group back together and helps you action that. We have had some amazing Funding Friday projects. NASA actually just wrote a wonderful article on one of last year's Funding Friday projects, a collaboration between NASA and RPI. So we have these ideas, we know the challenges, we've made them visible, and now we have the week ahead of us. So enjoy your hallway conversations, propose unconference sessions, go into that Funding Friday, make the most of everything that you can with all these incredible people this week. I am so glad to be here with you. Thank you for your attention during our open plenary. Thank you to Dr. Carrie Jordan. And we now move into a coffee break. We have intentionally, well, there's coffee in the back of the room. We have intentionally put the coffee break actually upstairs to the left of the registration desk, because that is where our breakout sessions are going to be. So we're going to move you out of this space and get you up there near where the breakout sessions are. So get some coffee, find that breakout session that you're most excited about next. And I look forward to seeing you all this evening at our opening reception. Thank you very much.